Sure.
So tonight, I just want to say thank you for coming. This is my program, Dare to Tell. Welcome to Dare to Tell, all of you listeners who are out there. Good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Dare to Tell. And I have with me my guest, Christopher Reed, and he's here to tell his story. And this program really is about uh, anyone having a story to tell. Never be ashamed of your story, who you are, what you have been through, what you are going through. It's what you have overcome that makes you the person that you are today. Your story might be the hope, the strength, the courage that speaks to someone's heart and inspires someone else's life. Your story can actually affect someone else's life because there are times when we think we're the only ones that are having this issue or going through struggles or problems, whatever it is. And this is a platform where you can come and, give your story, however horrific, however bad or good, the indifference, however you think it might be, but it actually can help someone else to let them know that, you know what, me too, I've been there, I've done that, I've gone through all of that, I'm going through, and because God is able to take the messes, everything that we've gone through out of our past, He could turn it into a message. The mess becomes a message. He takes the trials, He takes the tests, and He turns them into a testimony. So tonight I'm happy to have my brother Christopher Reed with me to give his story tonight. And as you go along, my brother, there are times when I might just stop you to ask you a question, but feel
Sure.
free to share your story.
Sure. Well, first, I want to thank you, my sis, for allowing me to come on to this platform. It's a truly honor. I really give, honor to God first and foremost for, allowing me to still be here on this earth. Life could
Amen.
have been way differently in times past, but you know what? Giving God thanks for that.
Yes.
Um, Really, my story varies from many different aspects. I can say at this point in time, I am in the process of overcoming because I never thought it would happen to me because I was always wondering why me when situations were happening. But then I realized that, hey, you know what? If I'm saying why not me, why can't I get what I see everybody else is getting? But you also have to remember that a lot of things that what people were getting, they got them under some really different ways and they weren't necessarily legal. And I realized that and I come from that point, I come from that standpoint. So I came here, I want to say, well, this past September, I've been here in Toronto now for over 20, almost 30 years.
Wow.
And being here had a lot of different challenges. When I walked in here, I was already, I would say, not the most outstanding citizen, but I had some different things that I could easily be molded into either the right way or the wrong way. It just so happened that the latter was where I went, and because things were quicker. You were able to get things done faster. You run into different connections and stuff like that. They're not necessarily the right connections in that end, but you meet them, you get yourself involved, and I got way deep into different things. I mean, you name it, on the foul side of the law. I was doing pretty much anything you can think of, and then as I was going through those processes, I kept on hearing a voice come to me every time.
Mhm.
I couldn't do certain things. I knew my guys were doing different things, like really different things, whether it be towards women, whether it be towards anything, you name it, it was happening. And I just couldn't go the full length of that scenario because I kept on getting this voice, and that voice kept telling me, you know what, it's wrong. You shouldn't be doing this. What are you doing here? What are you doing there in that respect? So, just give you an example. I remember one time I was sitting in what you call a trap house, and I was in the trap. And I sat there, trap house thing, that's every day. Okay, you do it every day.
Mhm.
And for those who are listening, you can kind of understand exactly where I'm going with this, those who can relate to this. And I was sitting there and I was getting to notice, and traffic is heavy. When traffic is heavy, you're making a lot of money. So, things are happening. And then you're just wondering, like, okay, why am I here? Everybody's enjoying themselves. One side is dominoes, one side is cards, one side is video games, and and the other guy's chopping. And I'm just sitting there and saying, why am I here? Why am I here? And I kept on saying, I kept hearing the voice, kept hearing the voice. And
Mhm.
years went by until the opportunity came where all this had to end. Because one thing I can tell you, you're never going to walk out of the situation willingly and knowingly and on your own. Something has to
Absolutely.
happen. And
Absolutely.
in most cases, it just so happened that, I was just sitting at home and, the door just rolled right to the floor. And I was just looking, like, I saw the door. When I mean rolled, a
Mhm.
door stands straight. But when a battering ram hits that door, it rolls to the floor. And all you can do is roll to the floor with your hands up,
Mhm.
and before you're looking at your life flashing before your eyes, and you're first saying to yourself, well, what's next? Well, what's next is, now you got to fight for your freedom.
Mhm.
And while you're
Right.
fighting for your freedom,
Mhm.
you're going through different scenarios in your head, like, okay, I'm not going to be free. I'm not going to be able to walk down to the store anymore. I'm not going to be able to do this anymore. I'm going to go down for this. And the
Don't
best,
you don't at some point in that situation you're thinking, am I dreaming? Am I gonna wake up and just everything is gonna be back to
yes,
normal?
absolutely. You dream it all the way up until trial, and then and even on sentencing, and then everything to that nature. And then when you go
Mhm.
in and you sit down and you realize this is real. You know what I mean? And when it was finally convicted, finally sent to my where my sentencing is, because of course, those who've been incarcerated in times past, you have what you call where you're going to be held, right? So you have their holding jail, and then you actually go to the actual institution that you're going to serve your
Mhm.
sentence.
Mhm.
So while I'm there to serve my sentence, it was Thanksgiving. I'll never
Mhm.
forget it. And pardon my French as I go through it. I'm just going to quote exactly what happened that day. And
Mhm.
when it was Thanksgiving and they're giving out dinner and stuff like that, so you're in the lineup and you're going to go sit down with the rest of the prisoners and stuff like that. And as you go ahead, the first person looked at me, slapped down the mashed potatoes, and slapped down like one or two pieces of, I don't know what in the world that was. It wasn't turkey, I can tell you that, but they slapped down something. And the first thing they said to me is, Happy Thanksgiving,
Wow.
bitch." And the
Wow.
first thing I did, now you got to understand, when you're in the bin, that's what they call it today,
Mhm.
is you got to understand you can't allow anyone to punk you, what they call punk you. So you
Yeah.
better stand up, because you're going to be somebody else's, if you don't.
Mhm.
And I had to fight for it. I had to fight for recognition. I had to fight for respect. And because of that, yeah, there was plenty other subsequent fights throughout my time,
Mhm.
but I kept on praying to God, if he can get me out of here, it'd be great. It was a 5 year. I was supposed to be in for 5 years, and I ended up getting 18 months because I was able to be pushed into a place where I can stay away from a lot of these situations and these fights and these scenarios.
I
Give
can
God
truly
thanks for it.
say, not to cut you, I can truly
Sure.
say, sometimes these things happen and
Yeah.
God intervenes.
Yes.
And when we see the outcome, we're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But
Uh-huh.
because he already had his hands on you, even
Yeah.
during the whole process.
That's right.
And you come out practically almost unscathed, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
you're like, oh my goodness. And it is so weird that it's when we're in those situations that we say, God, if you just get me out of here. Most people that I know.
Yes. 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 You're
You
absolutely right, because as that happened and they brought me over, I started to do more, like, because they realized I was, when they get ready to sentence me, I was already 2 years into university. I was actually trying to fix my life up. Like, I'm being, this was happening, but I was living a double life.
So this
You know what I
happened
mean?
here in here
Yes, it
where you
did.
are. Okay.
Yes. So as that time happened, I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to move forward. I'm ready to do whatever. So they
Mhm,
put me into the library, start doing stuff, teaching guys to read,
mhm,
etc., and all that kind of stuff.
mhm,
Go back to trial again for an appeal and go for that. And first, no bail, no nothing, all these things.
mhm.
All of a sudden, I get a break. I get a break. They say, okay, you know what? We'll give you this. This is what's going to happen. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to dime anybody out. It just happened that I was able to get my sentence cut in a third, which I give God thanks for.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
know, after that, this is where life really starts to take on its full, because you have two choices. You made a commitment to God.
Mhm,
Get me out of this, I'll change my life.
mhm.
Well, you get out of it. The real prison is not in prison. The
That's
real
right.
prison is when you're out of prison.
Yeah.
Because when you're out of prison, you don't have what you call resources ready to just, here you go
Mhm,
ahead and live your life. First, you have to go out there looking for jobs. I don't know how it is now, but when you're looking for a job at that time, you have to put on your application and say you're bondable. And if I lie about that, I'm going to be canned and possibly even arrested because
mhm.
I committed a fraud.
Mhm.
And many of those times that happened, there was no jobs happening, so the streets is right beside you, and you
And
can
nobody wants to
easily
hire
jump out.
you when
Yeah,
they hear
no,
ex-con. Like,
no, they don't want to, right? They
so
don't.
yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
wondering what does society
no,
expects you to do?
absolutely. And it kind of hurts, but I still try to get my life back on track, and
Mhm,
had a couple people who looked out for me, gave me an opportunity. And then as I was giving the sentence was giving me a conditional discharge, which a conditional discharge means I have to stay on the right path.
mhm,
Don't do anything, don't get afoul of the law, don't do this, don't leave the country. None of these things I could do
mhm.
until I can prove that I'm an outstanding citizen. Then all these charges would be what you call forgiven.
Right.
And then eventually you can go for your pardon.
Mhm,
So all of those things actually happened. I mean, they happened down the road. And I give God thanks for it, because you know what? I spoke to God. I've been hearing the voice, and the voice was telling me to come out before I actually get sucked in. Well, I end
mhm,
up getting sucked in. You know what I mean? And the funny thing is, even during those 18 months, not one of my boys on the block,
mhm.
none of them came to see me. None of them wrote me. None of them cared to know where I was at. But
Can
the
I tell
minute
you
I came
something?
out, mhm,
But can I tell you,
yep,
um, I've heard people say that all the time. Oh,
yep,
my friends didn't, but
yep,
God did a separation for a reason.
that's exactly it. And the funny thing is, I'm going to circle it back to what's happening today,
Mhm,
because believe me, a lot of things I experienced that 20 something years ago, I'm experiencing right now.
mhm,
And I'm like looking at this and I'm like, wow. I decided at that point I was involved with, end up marrying this lady. We got together, we had a child, and, I thought that, okay, I'm ready now. Life is going to be better. You know what I mean? I'm
mhm,
going to set everything going, everything on its rails, and, had a decent job and stuff like that, and working and doing everything I can. But,
mhm.
that wasn't going to be meant to be, because it was almost like a living hell for another couple of months, another couple of years, to a point where we're completely separated. I don't get to see my child. My child now, remember I told you it's 20 some odd years ago. My child
Yeah.
now is 24 years old.
Wow.
And if I can count on my two hands how many times I've actually seen him. You know what I mean? And he's estranged to me because all my past, of which I'm no longer involved with, was
Mhm,
actually brought up in courts again, but this time for law, this time for paternity, and this time for child support and all these kind of things. So literally, I left jail, that was bondage. Thought I was free, marry somebody, go back into bondage. And this one was a longer sentence. This sentence lasts 21 years. And
wow.
so I was buckled under the pressures of the government for so many years. Now I hear many people who say, "Oh, dads are deadbeat, this and that, and all that kind of stuff." You're always going to be, it doesn't matter who you are, you're always going to be an enemy or a villain to somebody's story.
But you see,
And
what I don't understand, even
mm,
when we're trying to put the past behind us,
yes,
society brings it back. You
that's right.
change your life, you're walking the right path, society brings it back, they use it against you.
Yes,
And this is something that I don't understand, because you do have deadbeat fathers that
for sure.
actually don't want to be in their kid's life. But here is a
Hmm.
man, you,
Hmm.
that wants to be a part of your child's life, and society
Hmm.
saying no because you
Yeah.
did this.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Not what you're doing, but you did this,
Yeah,
you
you
know?
did this, and all of that was all brought based on manipulation from a person that really wanted to hurt me. And
Mhm.
I'm like, why would you want to hurt your children's father? Like, what would it serve you to do that, right? I
But
think it would be better, right?
but the the particular person might think I'm hurting him. They're actually
Yeah,
not hurting
yep,
you, but they're hurting the child.
that's right.
Because when a child does not have a father in his or her life,
Hmm.
it affects them in some way or another.
Yeah,
And times these kids grow up thinking my dad doesn't want to
yeah,
be a part of my life
hmm,
because of what they
true,
were told.
that's right.
I don't know the story of each side, but
Yeah,
I'm listening to your story, and
mm,
I just think that, society needs to do better
yeah,
as far as,
yeah.
when a parent wants to be in their child's life, give them a
Yeah.
chance in
Yeah.
spite of
The
their
good thing
past.
about yeah, the good thing about this though is that you know what? I don't even have to defend myself. You know why? Because they decided to run my name through the court system, and that's fine. A student that's studying law can actually pull the record and see everything that I'm talking about, word
Mhm,
for word. They
mhm,
can go into the Ontario Court dossier, pull out a case that they might see that they can use for case studies, right, in
mhm.
university or law school. And they can see these things. You know what I mean? So literally, it's not necessarily, I understand where you're coming from, two sides. No, there's really one side. And this is
Well, let
this,
me
they're
ask
the ones
you,
who said it. Yeah.
let me ask you something. And you don't have to actually answer or go in
Sure.
details,
Sure.
but why does this person, what happened for this person to try to do this of keeping your child away from you? Was it a matter of the relationship fell apart or something else?
Well, I can tell you it only came down to a point where this was a different kind of family setting. They were raised where a woman can talk to their man any way they wanted. And I can give you an example. I remember sitting down with her because she was my wife at the time. I sat down with her. We were having dinner, and her sister was also sitting there with her husband, and
Mhm,
her mother was sitting there with her father, right? And they're all sitting down there, and everybody's we're having a conversation. It was actually getting animated, but nothing serious. We were just talking about something. I forgot what it was.
mhm,
And I remember as the father was talking, so first it was the sister, rather. The sister was talking about something, and her husband was there, and her husband's like kind of cut into the conversation. She immediately turned to him and said, "Listen, what is your problem? Why don't you wait till when I finish talking, and then you can speak?" I go, "Holy Chloe, I can't believe what I'm hearing." All right. So I said, "Okay, that's one." I'm looking around and I'm like, okay, well, this is probably just an anomaly, nothing big. Then all of a sudden, the father's speaking, but he had something in his mouth while he was eating, and food was kind of spilling out. You're getting animated, right? So you kind of forget to,
mhm,
close your mouth, chew, and everything like that. Oh, the mother turned to him and said, "Yahag, what's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I'm like, "I'm telling you, sis." I sat down there. The piece of corn that I ate missed a step, dropped down almost on down, and my wife at the time turned around and looked at me, and I looked at her, and I go, "If you dare say a word, it's on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I said. You dare say a word, it's on. That became an argument. That became something else. But what really did it is, and I was done from this point, is when you have to lie on me. Do call me anything you want. Don't call me a liar and don't call me a thief because I don't do those things. You know what I mean? She was one day sitting down, like she was arguing with me for something. And she was like about 7 months pregnant at the time. And I'm just sitting down, I'm just relaxing. I just don't want to hear any noise. I came home from work. I worked 10, 12 hours at the time every day from there. And I was going to school at the same time because part of my release agreement was that I finished school, right? So, and I got part of that done and I'm working 10 hours. So I'm never home. So the days that I am home, I'm going to rest. And she start going off and start talking all this stuff to a point she was screaming out. Like, we lived together at the time, but her mother was there, and normally her mother used to come by our house because we live close to where she works and I would drive her to work. So she screamed one day that she was screaming so hard and yelling at me because I wouldn't respond. I mean, I'm just a lot. Go ahead and you talk because I know that you're probably a bunch of hormones and you're not in the right. I get it. I get it. You understand? You're in a condition that you just want to alleviate. You know what I mean? And I get it. So I left it alone. And as she was going on, she screamed out to a point where she dropped strictly to the floor. She like lost consciousness, dropped to the floor. I spruted up. I was at the one side of the room because the room was big, and I ran all the way to the other side. I said, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I'm trying to lift her up. I turn around. The mother's right there behind me. And my wife at the time looked at her mother and said, "I knocked her down." And I was like, I am done. I go, what? I was at the other side of the room. You are pregnant. What in the world would I do anything like this? And I'm like, I'm done. I said, as soon as baby's done, I'll be here. But when it's done, I'm out. Right? I can't do this anymore because you're trying to put me in prison again. You know what I mean? You're trying to put me in prison again, and I can't do that. And that's what kind of started that process. Like, I was there for a little bit longer, but as soon as my son could possibly start crawling, I had to make an exit. But
Yeah.
even when I did make the exit and still trying to be a part of his life, that's when the excuses come. I can't see him for this reason. And oh, it's a birthday party here. And oh, it's not a good week here. And it's always something. It was always something. And I was always stuck in a situation where I can't see my kid. My life's getting crushed because I can't see my firstborn son.
So
And it
even
hurts.
when you show up, say
Yes.
okay, she keeps telling you that. Do you
Yeah.
ever show up to say, I need to see my son?
That goes with back to the record because when you go look back at that record, that court record, she'd also, which is I didn't omit this because this was coming, in that same document dossier that you can pull, anybody can pull from court, if you're a student and so forth. She also put a restraining order on there for me, stating that I was an abuser. I never touched this woman, never, right? And the funny thing is, I was sitting there, I was like, there's no police ever come to touch base with me on this, but she spoke to her lawyer about this. This is in documentation. I can literally show you documentation that she signed off that she gave statements to her lawyer about. So I had all these things against me that, you know what, anybody can pull those records. And even when I was looking at subsequent employment, I wasn't getting it because they can pull this record.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like literally, you were trying to destroy me. And she told me, I'm going to destroy you. Right? I'm going to destroy you. And I go, you'll never destroy me. I got enough, I got more than enough power to take care of what I need to take care of. And I will. You know what I mean? But I could not see him. Even if I showed up, she would have called the cops. She would have absolutely called the cops. And I was like, you know what? I'll do whatever I can. I'll call. I'll do whatever I can. Gave him a cell phone, put the line on, and I try to call him. Even that wasn't being responded for, and I'm paying the bill. So it just shows you that a lot of things that were happening, and to this day, it's the same thing. You know what I mean? It's the same thing, and it hurts still. You know what I mean? It does hurt still, but at the same time, my parents at the time were telling me she was not the person. You know what I mean? She was not the person you were supposed to marry. You weren't supposed to do this. But I went out and did it as anyway. City Hall, do everything, elope, have a wedding reception at Mandarin restaurant of all places and stuff like that, and then try to enjoy yourself thinking you're living a good life only because
Mhm.
you wanted what you would consider to be moral, legal sex, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that you're
Yeah.
not called shacking up,
Yeah.
right? But that cost me. You know what I mean? It cost me a lot of my peace. It cost me a lot of my sanity. At that present time, I didn't even know what to do at that point. And I had different opportunities that came to me through jobs that I literally had to leave because my mental state wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And how I overcome that? I overcame it by just, saying, I'm gonna go to God on this. And
Mhm.
wherever you lead, I follow. But I'm still not a man. I'm still not at that point. I wasn't baptized. I'm not a man of God, but I'm talking to God every day. You know what I mean? But I had a relationship with God every
Yeah.
day, and I
Yeah.
heard his voice every day. And I was like, okay, you know what? As long as I'm hearing him every day, then I have a relationship with him. It's kind of like a friend.
Mhm.
If your friend is calling you every day, you have a relationship. You know what I mean? So I have a relationship with God. And then as time started to, evolve, I met my present wife now. And, that was a challenge to begin with. But then, we fast forward now 21 years we've been together. It's
Let me
amazing.
ask you a question.
Sure.
Like you just said, you had a relationship with God. You were talking to him
Yes.
every day as a friend.
Yes.
Some people might say, because everybody has different opinions. Some
Yeah.
people might say, okay, you weren't baptized.
No.
Um, how is it that you hear the voice of God when you
Yeah.
really didn't, whatever, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, the word does say many are called and few are chosen, right?
Mhm.
And I was told from a young boy when my grandma was alive, and she used to put on the Jimmy Swaggarts and the Oral Roberts and all
Mhm.
that kind of stuff we watch on the Sunday. And she goes,
Yeah.
"You see these men? I want you to be like them." You know what I
Mhm.
mean? My background and heritage is Jamaican, so my grandma
Mhm.
was Jamaican. And
Yeah.
my grandma used to tell me, I do not want you to talk this broken English that I come from. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I want you to talk properly because that's where it's going to define what your opportunities are going to be. And I was like, even asked that today by one of the technicians that we have here at work. And they asked, how come you talk like that? I know your background is something else. I go, yes, because I was trained this way. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
was trained to do this. You know what I mean? So I have to pick and choose my spots where I can be comfortable
Yeah.
and pick and choose the spots where I have to be professional,
Train up a
and this
child
is
away.
exactly. And my grandma
Right.
taught me that, you know what I mean? And based on everything that she's taught me, she's been my rock, you know what I mean? Because I didn't grow with a father. The only time I've ever seen my dad was I saw him when I was about 16 years old.
Mhm.
I saw him, he came, he goes, come to me, come check me and stuff like that. I came and checked him. And then I guess I must have came at a bad time or whatever situation may be. And obviously he thinks I'm coming there to ask for money. And he
Mhm.
just gave me two $100 bills. And he goes, I don't ever want to see you again. And that was it.
Wow. How did that
Right.
feel? As that, well, how old
Uh,
were you?
at 16, I didn't feel it didn't it really hit at first because you have $200 in your hand, right? Because you're just
But
sitting there, oh,
aside,
it doesn't matter,
but
right?
aside from him giving you that $200,
Yeah,
when he said the words that he said,
yeah.
I want money.
It takes after the fact you start listening to it. It's like, wow. You know what I mean? And over the years, wow. And then when you have your child, wow. I can't believe that. You know what I mean? I can't believe that. To this day, does it bother me? I use it for motivation,
Good,
so to speak.
good.
I've been where God has taken me, He's allowed me to be a father to the fatherless because God is a father to the fatherless. And
Absolutely.
I've been doing so many different things that I can just say, I marvel at God. I had next to nothing in my pocket, but
Mhm.
God allowed me to be okay. I need you to stand beside this single woman and go to the parent teacher interview for this one and do this for this person and
Mhm.
stand in the gap for this person.
Mhm.
And like literally at one point, one of my kids were saying, because there's so many kids in the house, is this an orphanage? Because we're wondering how many kids are in the house. But it just shows you that there are so many things that you can do for the present community based
Yeah.
on your past. God lined up a lot of these afflictions, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, so that I can use them, you know what I mean, for
Yeah.
the for future aspects, right?
Mhm.
You know, the word says specifically, many of the afflictions of the righteous,
But the
but
Lord
the Lord Himself,
delivers
you know what I mean,
them from it
delivers them from
all.
all of them. And
Mhm.
that scripture, the day I read it, I said, thank you. That's me.
Yeah.
That's what I'm all about. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that's where I've been. And I will always be there because I realized that, you know, the afflictions were there in
Mhm.
so many aspects, financially, family wise, growing up and everything to that nature. Everything was different. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Even friends, I never really used to carry much of them. You know what I mean? Even fast forward, I decided I'm going to open up the door now. You know what I mean? To see
Mhm.
if I do that. And even then, I still got stabbed in the back up to recently, probably a couple hours ago. And I
Wow.
sat down there and I was like, you know what? Okay, God, what do I do? Because what this person just said to me and text me a minute ago was insulting.
Mhm.
Now, God, you know where I'm coming from. You know what I mean, you know where I'm coming from. This could be easy as me going over to his house, you know, but I don't carry what I used to carry. You know what I mean? I'm carrying the Holy Spirit with me now. Before, I wasn't carrying, I was carrying a spirit killer. You
Mhm.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And literally, I had it and I could use it at any given time. But you
Mhm.
know what? God allows you to change. You know what I mean, to do certain things for a reason. And they're also something that you have to learn as a lesson. I learned this too. You know, as much as I've been, you know, I talk about a lot of things that God has done for me. And I'm grateful to it. My ministry is all about self because God says you're going to use you for your ministry.
Yeah.
Your story is going to be your ministry. You understand? And
Absolutely.
that's what it's going to be. For me, maybe others, you can conceal this, conceal that. That's fine.
Mhm.
My story is my ministry. And when I speak about it and speak about the goodness of God in my life, I found out, literally, I found out that people do not take it for you, don't take it as if you are speaking about the goodness of God. They call it boasting.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Well,
I'm
you're
not.
boasting in God.
I said, I'm boasting in God. I'm boasting in what He has done for me. I said, do you
Yes.
understand what it is to sit down in a jail cell knowing that someone else's manhood is being taken from them? You don't
Mhm.
know how that feels. Do you know how it feels when you're hungry and you can't do anything about it? Do you know how it feels when everybody else has locked you out and every single person that you had a friend left you? Do you know how that feels? Do you know how it feels that when you're sitting down and you're contemplating criminal activity just so you can eat? You know what I mean? You know,
Mhm.
like, do you know how that feels? Like, so when I'm speaking about the things that are happening today, I'm like, God, you are awesome. Because 20 something years ago, I was like, God, listen, I don't know about this God business. I don't even know if you exist, but I'm just letting you know that, hey, you got to show up. You know what I mean? You got to show up and you got to show up now. And God has shown up in many different ways in my life at this point in time
Mhm.
to a point where, you know, I'm almost at a point where I can walk on my own business wise and not need work. You know what I mean? I'm almost at that point. But, you know, the fact that I'm here, I'm giving God thanks. I'm alive here. I'm giving God
Mhm.
thanks. It was near death. God gave me an opportunity to live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I still have metal shrapnel in my body, but I give God thanks. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know, for being in confrontation. So, but I allow God to, you know, do what He had to do in my life and lead it all the way up to baptism. I can go on for different things. And going into baptism, that was a trick by God and said, okay, I'm ready for you now.
And
You
this is
know?
the thing why I started this program because my opinion is if you're going to preach to me,
Yes.
tell me what you've been through. Tell
Amen.
me what you have gone through in life. Don't
Yes.
tell me whatever it is that you think, from
Yes.
your mind. Tell me
Mhm.
because when you tell me, I can say, oh my God, I've
Yes.
been there. Someone
Yep.
else has been there. They know
Yes.
exactly what you're talking about because you
Yes.
can't just preach Bible, Bible, Bible.
No.
A lot of people don't want to hear that.
life. No, they
And a
don't.
lot of people, okay, tell me what you've been through.
That's
Have you
right.
ever been hungry? Have you
Yes.
ever been
Mhm.
without a roof over your head?
Yes.
Have you ever
Mhm.
been without a mother and a father? Have you ever
Yes.
been to prison?
Hmm.
All the stuff that you've been through. Tell me
Yes.
about that.
Tell me about that. Yep.
That's what preaches. Your life is what preaches.
Amen.
Because many people don't go to church. Many people don't want to hear the word of God. Many
No,
people don't
no,
listen to. Tell me about
no.
your life.
Tell me about
Because
your
your
life.
life is what shows who God is.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. You're absolutely right. Because, if I didn't have these experiences, I couldn't change a lot of impact. I couldn't be an impact in anybody's life.
But your story is not
Yeah.
about you. It is
It's
for
not about
somebody
me.
else.
It's for somebody.
Yeah,
And it was always for somebody.
always.
I mean, it was just like, you know what? I had to be the one to take the brunt end and the pain and the struggle and all that kind of stuff. And I get that, I understand that. Now looking in retrospect, I'm like, God, thank you. You know what I mean? I'm thankful because it was painful going through it. But now, you're birthing, you birthed a minister. I can't believe it. I'm still sitting here saying
Absolutely.
today, as you're
He
birthing a
knows.
minister.
He
And
knows
I'm
what
like,
you can bear.
I'm like, this is nuts. I'm like, me being a minister, when I go on the streets now, they still look at me and they still call me, oh, Blaze, what's going on? This, that. I'm like, yo, and they're like, you're serious? You really gone it? You really gone that far? I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, man, I really did. And to that, I hear a lot of these guys, they talk to me every now and then. They call me every now and then. I go back into the hoods every now and then. And
Yeah.
I'm just speaking to them. You know what I mean? Because
Absolutely.
I don't alienate myself because of a change of life. Go
Mhm.
back in there, sit down, play some dominoes with them and stuff like that. But be careful, because if these
That's right.
guys have beef,
That's
you're
right.
not going down there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Because whatever happens, happens. And the thing is, a lot of people, you hear people say they're from the streets and they've done things in the streets and stuff
Mhm.
like that. But the reality is, they know nothing about that aspect, that life. You know what I mean? I remember when you testified at one point, and I heard, I said, okay, I have somebody around that can absolutely relate to where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, you know what? This is right. This is the right thing to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is the right thing to do for
Mhm.
me to speak. So I felt comfortable speaking about my story in ministry, in testimony, in anything that I do,
Yeah.
because I knew other people weren't afraid, so to speak, to do that. And that's what I'm doing now, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop doing it.
But you see, that's how the enemy works, because when
Yes.
you've gone through and for
Mhm.
somebody else to get their deliverance, the
Yes.
enemy wants to mute you. He wants to
Yes.
stop you from speaking,
Mhm.
and so you don't affect somebody else's life.
That's true.
But I want to ask you, so how is it today with regarding your child?
Well, I still don't see him. I still don't see him now. The last time we were able to, well, I was talking to him very fluidly last year. Last year, this time, we were talking a
Mhm.
lot, but we still get that chance to see each other.
Mhm.
And then it was Christmas time, and I was like, okay, you know what? My mom was having something. She lives out in the east end of the city. And I was like, okay, it's going to be ugly sweater theme. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, cool. Where everybody's getting together, everybody's getting an ugly sweater to put on.
Mhm.
My son calls me and he's like, he goes, oh, what's going on, Pops? Everything good? I say, yeah, I'm good, man. He's like, what are you saying? And I'm like, so listen, would you like to come over to Mom's? He hasn't been there, because if he walked past his grandmother, which is my mom, she
Mhm.
would know that's her grandson that walked past.
Wow.
That's how bad it is.
Mhm.
Neither would his uncles and aunties and all that kind of stuff. And I got several siblings.
Mhm.
And the thing is, all of that, he said, okay, I'm going to reach. I said, okay, it starts at this time. And I said, I don't have an ugly sweater." He told him this, don't worry, I got you hooked up. All right.
Mhm.
So I got one designed for him pronto, got it
Mhm.
done, had it in the car, reached over there, and I'm just looking out the window, looking out the window. If I'm going to see a car, I'm going to see an Uber, I don't know what, I'm
Mhm.
looking out the window. Hours passed by, nothing. And I was like, huh, okay, I've been down this road before, so it doesn't hurt as bad. You know what I mean? It
But at
doesn't.
that moment when
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
looking,
yeah,
you haven't seen him, like,
yeah.
what's the feeling? What's the
Heart anxiety's hitting. I didn't tell anybody because I really didn't want anybody down.
Right.
So I was just waiting to see if this would be a surprise, and
Yeah.
it never happened. And subsequent to that, I haven't heard from him since. And
So
that
he
was
never called you
not
to say, I
never,
couldn't make it.
no, nothing, nothing. Like my phone is right here in front of me. I look at it almost one every week, and I look in there and I'm like, this is the last time I talked to him. The only other messages I sent was Merry Christmas.
And you
Oh,
have tried to call
yeah.
him and all of
Oh,
that, no
many
response.
times, no response, goes straight
Wow.
to voicemail, straight to
Mm.
voicemail. So, I look at it as, what, my son has been poisoned towards me. And I realize that. You know what I mean? I realize that it's hard to really much talk about it much now, but I'm a little bit over the hump now because at 23, 24, now he's 24, there's a certain responsibility that he has to do
Oh,
now.
absolutely. I was about to say.
And yeah,
Mhm.
and now I think that the onus is on him to
Mhm.
make those attempts because I've made several attempts. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's funny that, my wife was just asking me the other day, how much money did you actually send over there, in
Mhm.
support? I go, so I did the calculation and I actually brought out the ledger and she looked at it and she was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, all of that was taken from me. I had to pay it regardless. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
said, I still had to do everything. And I still don't get me wrong, audience, everybody, don't get me wrong. I'm not looking at money in
Right.
exchange for son. I didn't care about the money because
Mhm.
when my son was around, when I was around him, there was nothing he could not get. You know what I mean? And now we're under the guise of the government. I had to do what they were telling me to do,
Right.
and meanwhile, I'm being villainized across the board in a different part of the city. And that's why
Mhm.
I was saying before that, you know what, you might be good to some, but you might be an enemy in someone else's story. I'm
Mhm.
absolutely like the devil to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the reality is that's not the truth. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there's always two sides to a story. Absolutely right.
Absolutely.
But
Some might say it's three
yeah, yeah,
sides, your side, my
yeah,
side, and the
yeah,
truth.
your side, my side, but there's a truth. And I'm
Mhm.
only speaking the truth. And it's only been there. And I was like, you know what? There's nothing more I can do. So I just like I do everything else, I give it in God's hands.
Mhm.
And while that's happening, God gave me two children on top of that, not
Mhm.
born from my loins, but at the same time, they call me dad. And I can be a father to them. And
Mhm.
I have been for years. You know what I mean? And it just shows you that, you know what, you might think that people can do things to you, but he's not going to take away everything from you. Everything
Right,
that
right.
virtue or
Mhm.
everything that God had planned for me to do, he had to plan for me to become a minister. He had a
Mhm.
plan for me to be a father. He had a plan
Absolutely.
for me to be a husband. He had a plan for me to be a leader. So if those are going to happen, nothing was going to stop it.
Mhm.
Right. So even their futile attempts to keep my son away from me, at one point in time, I do anticipate that phone to ring. I do anticipate to open my door one day, and
Mhm.
I'll accept him with open arms. And he's not a prodigal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
he's not a prodigal in any means because I know it has nothing to do with him in terms
Absolutely.
of the way he's thinking.
Right,
So,
right.
and I was like, you know what? And I understand that. And fact is, I could easily take the information and say, listen, this is what they did to me. I'm not even going to do that. I
Yeah.
have no need to do that
Mhm.
because I don't want you to look at your family all of a sudden, switch the pendulum, hate them, love me. No, you know
Yeah,
what? Love
yeah,
everybody. I'll hold what I got to hold till my grave
yeah,
comes,
yeah.
and just take it from there, right? Because I realize that is what God would want me to do, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. So
Well, when you've done all that you can
yeah,
do, what
that's
else do
all
you
you
do?
can do.
You
You know what I
stand
mean?
and you wait
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you hope
yeah,
and believe that one day
yeah.
he
Yeah,
will
you
see you.
can. That's why I'm just saying, I'm going to focus on the things of Christ. I'm going to do the things
Mhm.
that God requires me to do, and whatever comes will happen. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
everything. If you seek first the kingdom of God and all His righteousness, and all things shall be added. And they will be added. And they'll be added a hundredfold. I'll
Mhm.
wait for my hundredfold. I'll
Yeah.
be patient and I'll just be waiting. Right?
Yeah,
We
because
need
while we're
abide in.
waiting,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
things will happen, things
yeah,
will go
Yeah.
down. It's just a part of life that we go
Yeah.
through some storms, but he's never failed. He's never left us. That's
Absolutely.
just how life is. There's a quote. I really don't remember who said that quote, but the
Yeah.
person said, life is 10% of what happened to you
Yes.
and 90% what you do about it.
That's it. That's right.
So, it's we take what comes and we let it motivate us to do
That's
better, to go on to be better people in society, to, just to overcome. And we are
yes.
overcomers, no matter what,
Yes. Yes.
you know.
Absolutely.
So your
Absolutely.
trials and all that you go through, you live to tell the story. That means you
That's right.
have overcome.
That's right. That's
You're
right.
still doing it.
And I'm still living that factor. I've heard stories of what these very similar stories happen with other men and friends that
Oh,
I know, and
mhm.
they've decided to do the wrong things and they end up going to jail for it. And I'm
Well,
like,
I
you know
can
what?
tell you that
Yeah,
I know somebody very close to me, a
yeah,
man that
yeah,
he was involved with this young lady. Well, they met, and it so happened that they didn't fall in love or anything.
yeah,
She fell in love, but he didn't. And,
yeah,
they had their sexual thing, and
hmm,
a baby came out of it. Not
yeah,
sure if it's his, but
yeah,
he decides that, I'm going to take care of this child,
hmm,
but I can't be with you because
yeah,
it was just something that happened.
yeah,
And I'm telling you, it was like when he said that, because he was being truthful,
yes,
telling her
yes,
that, that he tried
yeah,
to make a life with her. Okay, I'm gonna rent a place, we're gonna live together,
yeah,
but because his
yeah,
heart wasn't there, he did the
no,
right thing and he said, you know what, we can't
yes,
together like this. I will take care of
mm,
my child.
yes,
Cops were called that he hit her. Nothing like that happened. She took him to court. And I'm
yeah,
telling you, she practically had pictures with marks on her that she was beaten.
yeah, yeah,
Nothing
yeah,
happened like that. And
mhm,
he took care of this child until this child was 22 years old. He
yes,
still today
yeah,
sees this boy, and he has him in his family. He's still his son to him.
yes,
Well, sometimes a child is born into a family, and you
yes,
can tell from both sides of the family if this
yeah,
child actually
is,
is
yes,
either the
yes,
mom's or her
for
side,
sure,
or the nothing.
absolutely,
And
nothing
so but this man, he was like, doesn't matter.
doesn't matter.
This
Yep,
child knows me as
that's right.
father,
Yep,
and I will continue to take care. And the funny thing is, this person went on to do it to another man.
yeah, wow,
So we do
unbelievable.
have women that
Yes,
actually
mhm,
do those things when a man rejects you or turns you down. You
yes,
feel
yes,
like,
yes,
okay,
yes, mhm,
I have to do something to
yeah,
hurt him, not knowing
that's
that you're
right.
hurting the child. But
Yes. Mhm.
it happens.
Yeah, it does happen. I am definitely a testimony for that. Yeah, I mean, because just wasn't going to have it. I
Yeah.
just wasn't going to take the disrespect. I
Yeah.
wasn't going to allow you to do that. And, I'm going to move on with my life and stuff like that. And it's like, you know what? Regardless of what was happening,
Mhm.
I, I look back now, henceforth, and I'm like, you know what, God, thanks. You know what I mean? Thanks. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Thanks for giving me the experience. Yes, it hurt. It hurt a lot during the time,
Oh, yeah.
but God, thank you because what I see today, you know what I mean? It's fine. And everybody that's actually tried to hurt me, so to speak, I know that my time for retribution will come,
It will.
and it will, because the word specifically says it in the fifth verse of Psalms 23, when it specifically says, thou prepares the table before the
Before you.
presence of my enemies, and
Mhm.
they will also see that my cup runneth over, and they'll also
Absolutely.
see that surely goodness and mercy follows
Mhm.
me all the days of my
Mhm.
life, and they will see it, and they're going to
Absolutely.
have a front row seat. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Retribution is on its way
Oh,
to a
yeah.
point where God's word cannot return back void. It cannot. If it's already spoken, it's for
Mhm.
you as well. It's not in a bunch of pages. If you took that word and take that word and believe it for yourself and
Mhm.
what you call inculcate it into your life,
Yeah.
oh, it's yours too. You live by
Absolutely.
it as well, and people are going to pay the price for it. Absolutely. So
Absolutely.
I'm not looking for it to happen, but
Right.
it is what it is,
Oh,
right?
it is.
It's
You
gonna happen.
sow, you reap what you sow. The
That's right.
Bible, the word says that,
Yes.
and we don't understand that whatever you put out in society, whatever you put out there, it
Yes.
comes right back to you. I've
Yes.
always heard um, people from way back when, my grandmother, older, other elderlies, that they would say, be careful what you do. If it doesn't come back to you, it hits your children, it hits,
Yes. Hmm.
and I truly believe that. So,
Yes. Yes.
people just have to be careful of how they treat people, what they
Yeah.
do to people, you know. But it happens,
Yeah.
In
Hmm.
First
It
Peter,
does.
it says, "Do not be surprised at the fiery
Yes.
trials that come upon you, to test you as though
Yes.
something strange happened." It's not strange. We
It's true.
all are going to go through some stuff, but
That's
God
right.
has you,
Amen. That's true.
always
It's
has your
true.
back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because He
You
didn't
know,
tell you that you weren't going to go through some stuff.
no,
And
no
the things that
chance.
we go, because I think a lot of people has this thing in their minds or their
Yeah.
heads that says,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm saved. It's all gonna be good.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go through anything, but
Yeah.
that's when you actually do go through stuff,
That's right.
because now um the enemy is there waiting. Said, okay, you
Yes.
gave your life to the Lord. Okay,
Yes.
I'm here because I'm gonna
Yeah.
serve some stuff. Yep. He's
That's right.
walking up and down throughout that's what he said in the word.
Yeah, that's right.
Walking
He did. Yeah.
to and fro in the
Yep.
earth. Yep.
hmm Looking who he can mess up with, and it happens, and but I'm giving God thanks for that. I can go on forever with regards to experiences that I've had, to a
Mhm.
point where I thought I had friends just recently, and
Yeah.
they turned back on me. Like
Yeah.
literally, a person told me on my phone, I can you can't see it from here, told me to screw off, and I was like, that's because I did something for them, and now
Mhm.
I'm coming back and saying, what's up? You know what I mean? Like, time is gone. What's
Yeah.
going on? And
Wow.
but you know what? Those are the things that God will tell you. You know what I mean? This is the things that God will use to test you,
Mhm.
because I'm excited about it, to be honest. It might sound as if, oh my God, you insulted me. And I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, my old person would be like, okay, got to find out where he
That's
lives. I
right.
got to go deal with this. You know what I mean? But the reality is like, no, I don't need to do that. It's fine. If it cost me to get rid of that person out of my life, then
Mhm.
it's money well spent,
Yeah.
because the journey that I'm going in, not everybody can come with me. So some
No.
people have to get
No.
dropped off. And
And we
as you were
always
saying,
think, mhm.
yep, as you were saying before, a lot of people get dropped off. You know what I mean? And it happens, and that was without money. You know what I mean? And these are situations where the friends couldn't come see me in jail. They didn't want to come see me. They left me. But there was a purpose for that. Well,
That's
there's a
right.
purpose
That's
for
right.
this, right?
Yeah.
There's a purpose for people to totally, disregard you. You know what I mean? We had a
Even
minister.
today,
Yeah.
when friends might turn against us, or we say,
Yes.
oh, this friend did this to me, it's all
Yeah.
ordained.
Yes, it is.
Because
Yes, it is.
sometimes people come into our lives for different reasons.
Yeah.
People will come into our lives temporarily. We try to hold on
Yes.
to them permanently, not
Yes.
knowing that, okay, their season is over. They've
Mhm.
done what they need to do. And
Yeah.
because we want to hold on so strong, and so God allowed these chaos and these things to happen to say, okay, it's time to let go.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So it hurts in our own flesh, in our own mind, our
Yes.
feelings. It hurts
Yes.
when a friend betrays you, or
Mhm.
something happened where a friendship has been dissolved, and you
Yes.
said, this person, blah, 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 blah. But
Mhm.
it's all in God's plan. I
That's
truly believe that,
it is.
this
It
person,
is.
their role in your life has been fulfilled. It's time
Yes,
to
it
let go.
has.
So when it
That's right.
happens, it's not strange, but we think
Yeah.
it's strange.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think it's strange anymore, my sis, to be honest, because I'm like, you know what? Okay, this has happened. This is great, because God has something greater. Because
That's
obviously I was told it was going to happen. You know what I mean? Be prepared. This was going to happen. Sometimes you get blindsided by it.
yeah.
But guess what? It happened. And I go, okay, there's only two ways that this can work. It's either going to work to my good or to my detriment.
Absolutely.
And the funny thing is, I loaned this person some money. The person used my story as to where I am today as an opportunity to hit me up for some cash. Okay,
Um,
no problem. I do that. I mean, I do
um,
that. And then you come back and cuss me because I'm asking you back for something that you said that you made an arrangement for.
Isn't
I'm
that
like, come on. I go, this is unreal. And I'm
isn't
like,
that
this,
something?
I go,
Sometimes
and you're, yeah, and you're giving me attitude and then telling me to, then telling me to blow off or, I can't tell you what it is, but he literally said it.
oh,
He
trust me.
spelt it out. And I was like, okay then. Even in his response, he was saying, I listened to you boast. And I'm like, it's funny how you say that. And I
Wow.
go, you know what? Yes, I was boasting in God, but the whole time when you were lining yourself up to meet your need through me, you
Mhm.
were listening to it, you were calling it a testimony. But now the tides have changed, and you're looking at it now and saying, hey, you were boasting the whole time. And you were
Mhm.
trying to do it at my expense. And I'm like, you're not going to try. And I'm like, as much as they try to use the gaslight
Yeah,
technique, I'm in God. So there's no
absolutely.
gaslighting me. You know what I mean? The discernment has already come down. He's
Yeah.
already let me know that this is going to happen and that you better just get ready to eat it. And the funny thing is, it's not a loss because the very same thing this person did to me,
Mhm.
everything came back to me 100-fold. You know what I mean? So it's not a loss. It's just I was just focusing on principle. And now, if he hears this broadcast, is it going to be that I'm boasting? No, I'm boasting
Oh,
in my Jesus Christ that
absolutely.
delivered me from a place of nothingness,
Yeah.
barren land, loaded bar, wherever you want to call it. I was in that situation
Yeah.
and God took me out of it. You know what I mean? Because I can tell you many different stories. No furniture, no this, you sleeping on the floor,
Been there
doing all this kind of
a
stuff.
bit. Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, imagine what God has done. You know what I mean? To a point where you are today. If I'm speaking to you about it and anybody that's listening to it, understand this. I am not boasting at all. I'm giving God thanks for what he
Absolutely.
has done. And if he can do it for me, he can absolutely do it for you. Because you know what? I made a decision. The decision was follow me as I follow Christ. And I followed Christ. And that's it. You know what I mean? I
Amen
said, you
to
know what?
that.
I'm done. You know what I mean? I'm done with this world. I'm done with what this world needs to do. Although I need this world to live,
Amen to that. And
God
and
is going to
we
give
will
me.
slip up along the way,
Yeah,
because none of us
absolutely.
are, it's things perfect us as we go along, all the
Absolutely.
things that comes to perfect us and makes us stronger. And
Yes.
but you are an overcomer and you're still overcoming. And that, like I would say, continue to pray for your son. And I hope
Yes.
and I pray that one day he will just show up and say, Dad, whatever it
Yeah.
is, we need to, be reconciled together. But I thank you. I thank you for
Yeah.
coming and giving your story. And I hope to
Thank
invite
you.
you back where you can tell another story,
For
whatever it is
sure.
that
For
you've been
sure.
through.
For
But
sure.
I give God thanks for you. And to all the listeners out there, all the viewers, I do appreciate your coming on and looking and we thank you for coming, for listening, for looking. And if you do have a story, um,
Yes.
we will be able to let you come on, even if it's anonymous. You don't
Yes.
necessarily have to say who you are, but
Yes.
feel free to tell your story because you are here, still here on
Amen.
this earth to tell that story. That means you have overcome. So
Amen.
I give God thanks. And so, Minister Chris, thank you so much again. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again, and looking forward to having you on another time.
Thank
All
you.
right. Be
Thank you.
blessed.
Let's take care. See you
Okay.
guys.
Bye.